everybody, this is Mike Cotter coming to you from Yeoman's in the Fork, Rare Book and Document Gallery, Leapers Fork, Tennessee. Today we're going to talk a little bit about book collecting. We have a little PowerPoint put together called Book Collecting 101. We did the presentation in the shop yesterday here at the store, and we had a good turnout, and we had some requests for posting it online, and people were asking if they could get copies of the PowerPoint, so we figured we would just do it once again for the world. So here we go. Book Collecting 101. We're just going to touch on some basics of book collecting. We're not going to get super into it. One of the big things with this hobby, one of the big things with this business is, or one of the big things to me as far as importance and part of the love of it, is I learn something new every day, just like the rest of you. So maybe you'll learn something today from this. I hope so, and happy to always hear from all of you. So let's get started. Book Collecting 101. Why do you collect? The reasons why we collect vary. Some people collect for the fun, some people collect for the hunt, the love of it, for financial gain that it may bring. We can't really comment too much about that one. I heard a quote once about the dreaded I word, investment. People come in the shop, people buy books, they collect books, and inevitably somebody asks the question, why would I spend that kind of money on this book? Is this a good investment? That's a question that we have to answer here in the store all of the time. I'm not an investment broker. I try to be very straight with people, and I'm going to be always. I'm not an investment broker. I can't give you investment advice. You wouldn't want to take rare book advice from your investment broker. What I can say is that just like any antiques market, if you're smart about what you're doing, you're probably going to be okay. And if you buy what you love, then you're most certainly going to be okay. I can only say what it's done for me, and books have done well for me. Talk more about that in a bit. Why collect? Book collecting is less about the money than it is about the method. It's one of my catchphrases. I really believe in that. When I started out, I didn't have a lot of money. Most people don't. You don't have to have a ton of money in order to put together a great, valuable, important book collection. It's really just about changing the way you think about buying books. Even if it's just the books you're going to buy at your regular bookstore, Barnes & Noble, to read. Look for the first edition. There's some simple, basic rules that you can follow that can really lead to a great book collection. Specialize. Seek out the sleeper. This is just one of those slides that I like to sneak in because, we're always looking for the hidden treasure. We're always looking for, the diamond in the rough. The book that we find at the Goodwill down the road, and it's priced at their price of $2.49, and maybe it's a $1,000 book that nobody's picked up on. Specialized. That plays in. If you're at the Goodwill and you're buying books, or wherever you are, if you're buying books, Goodwill, flea markets, whatever, always remember you can't buy it all. In my opinion, you should specialize. Period. If you specialize in what you're doing, you're gonna get that feeling of satisfaction that we all so desire. No matter how much money you have, if you throw tons and tons of money out of your pockets and into books, that's great. But you may never get that feeling of satisfaction that you can get by simply just spending a little bit of money and working hard to put together a great collection of one certain thing. Maybe your goal is to collect a first edition of every Ernest Hemingway book. Maybe your goal is to collect a first edition of every William Faulkner book. Whatever it is, it's a quantitative goal. That's what I recommend. That's what I suggest. So be careful. Look for the sleeper, but don't go out buying every single thing you come across because you think it's a good deal for $1. My wife says I'm a clearance sucker, and I really think that I speak from experience here. A garage full of junk at one point or another. What do people collect? First editions, paperback originals, proof or advanced copies, limited edition books, and literary prize winners. In just a minute, I think the next slide, we're going to go into some of those literary prize winners, examples of those, and kind of a little bit about what they are. But limited edition books, whenever we're talking about this, we're talking about signed, numbered edition. We're talking about specifically, numbered edition, leather bound, things that are created in specific limited quantities. Those are going to be collectible. Proof or advance copies, if you're not familiar, a proof and or an advance copy of a book is a copy of a book, most of the time, especially in recent years, in paperback, that's sent out to copywriters, editors, reviewers, that sort of thing. Prominent booksellers. They're looking for the publisher of the book before they sink in and do the hardcover edition. As a general rule, they're looking for heirs. They're looking for people to pick up the book, read it, learn a little bit about it, know what it's going to be about, what price it is, how many we've got in production. Tell us if we've got misspelled words, that sort of thing. Just briefly, I'm gonna snag an advanced copy real fast. And I don't have one out on the table, so let's just grab one. Robert Penn Warren, New and Selected Poems, issued in hardcover, then issued in a leather limited edition. But this is the original advanced proof, and you can see right on it, advanced proof, uncorrected. I don't know if we can get a tight enough shot, but it'll give you an example of what a book kind of comes out to begin with. There you go. Let's put that right there. What do people collect? We talked about literary prize winners. Here's where we go a little bit more in depth. Some examples of those prize winners would be Booker Prize, The Best of Britain, Caldecott Award, Most Distinguished Picture Book, Hugo Award, Best Science Fiction every year, National Book Award, of course, the Newbery Award, which is the most distinguished contribution to children's literature each year, and the Pulitzer Prize. The Pulitzer, as you know, is divided out into certain genres, pretty much all of which are going to be collectible. Miniature books. This was an add-on in this last book collecting class that we did yesterday. This wasn't our first book collecting class, so we like to throw in some extra slides. We continue to develop this PowerPoint. Miniature books. That's something that was brought up by one of our customers, and it's a great topic. As a general rule, a miniature book is a book, in the United States at least, that's 3 inches or smaller in length or width, I believe. And we've got the definition here, but a miniature book is usually considered to be one which is no more than 3 inches in height, width, or thickness. There you go. Some aficionados collect slightly larger books, while others specialize in even smaller books. And we've seen them way down, smaller than the size of a dime, where companies have specifically set out to create, the smallest Bible ever printed in the world. Really fun stuff. And this has not a lot to do with it, but whenever I think of a miniature book, I always think of the Adams quote, "You'll never be alone with a poet in your pocket," because minis are obviously the books that are going to be in your pocket. An example of a miniature book, we're just going to pull one out right here. This is a book called The Tragic Bomb. It's by Luis Cabrera. And as you can see, this book is probably just about 1.5 inches in height, probably about a little over 1 inch in width. And that's a mini. They are out there, and collectors go after them. I wish I actually had more of them. It seems like every show we do, more and more people collect minis. Condition isn't everything, it's the only thing. This has probably been said before, but here we're obviously attributing this to Alan Ahern. The Ahern book, collected books, we've just gotten in the new ones. We actually sold 8 copies, I believe, in the shop yesterday. It is the Bible when it comes to a quick reference to modern first editions. If you're out there in the field, you're, whatever it is, no matter your level of involvement in the book world, it's a book that stays in the car, period, because quite frankly, most of the information that you need when you're at a flea market or an estate sale or a used bookshop or a rare bookshop for that matter can't be found quickly on the internet. But you know, and that sounds crazy, I know. The internet has everything. Think again. I mean, the collected books gives you the quick reference to the issue points you're looking for a tremendous amount of modern first edition books. And it is absolutely invaluable. If there's one book that's that's led to the success and/or the creation of this store, Yeoman's, it would probably be the Alan and Patricia Ahern's collected books. Without it, I would not have been able to scour and find some of the pieces that I have over the years. Period. How to determine an edition. This is where we get into a little bit of detail when it comes to book collecting. The book we're using as an example first here is An Old Man in the Sea. Ernest Hemingway, Pulitzer Prize winner. We're going to give some we're going to talk just a minute about The Old Man in the Sea. And one of the things, there are a couple of things you're looking for whenever you're out there and you think you found one. Number one, you're looking for, on the copyright page, the book must have a capital A just under that little publisher disclaimer, that publisher note. And I don't know if Greg can get us zoomed in enough, but you know, we're looking for that capital A. We're also looking for the Scrivener's colophon, the seal. Both of those things must be present on the copyright page in order to identify the book as a first edition. Next, actually, did we have last viewed? We're going to talk a little bit more about The Old Man in the Sea before I go into Cormac McCarthy. You know, Old Man in the Sea, you're also looking for the original price on the dust jacket, and you're looking to make sure that that price on the dust jacket on the inside flap is brown. One of the things that I've seen over the years, as crazy as it is, I've seen that price rubbed out using steel wool or the like by crafty folks out there, and they've somehow, you know, used a typewriter and they've typed on the right price, but they can never get the color of that price right. It has to be that light, that brown tint, and a typewriter ink just is super difficult, I think, to get to that brown. If you see a black price on the inside of that jacket, that's not what you're looking for. Just pay close attention. And in the next one, we're going to go into that, and we're going to show a picture of that. So you can and you can always email us direct, and we'll be happy to send you a picture of what we're talking about here, since it's not actually in the slide. It will be next time. Cormac McCarthy, All the Pretty Horses. This is an example of a book, you know, by Knopf. And this is one of those books, as you move through the myriad of publishers, we had The Old Man in the Sea, which was, you know, a book done over 50 years ago. Move up a few years, Cormac McCarthy. This is 92, All the Pretty Horses. Knopf doesn't use a print number line. They simply state first edition. That's what we're looking for. With most books that you see out in the world today, if you're at a bookstore or a flea market, wherever you are, most publishers use the print number line. The number line is either, this is an example of another book, David O. Stewart, Impeached. The number line here, as you can see, is in the middle of the page. This is a scan of the copyright page. The number line is in the middle of the page. Sometimes you'll see it a little bit lower, sometimes you'll see it a little bit higher. Sometimes you'll see it at the bottom of the page. The 1 must be present, and that indicates a first edition, first printing copy of the book. If the 1 were gone, it would be a second printing, the lowest number that's left on that line, either the front or the back. And you would move your way in. It doesn't matter whether the 1 is on the left or the right, as long as it's present. The only publisher, really, that covering 90% of what's out there, the only publisher mainstream that doesn't use the 1 right now, I believe, is Random House, and they go to the number 2. Now, There are tons of publishers and tons of small presses out there. I'm giving you the guidelines for just over the whole big picture. This is going to cover the majority of what you find out there. When it comes to small stuff like university presses, you're going to get, that's much more detailed, and you're going to need to consult either a reference book and or an expert. We're going to talk a minute about review copies. Review copies are somewhat akin to advanced proofs. You know, essentially very close to being the same. We have an example of a review copy here in-house that I really love. It's the Shelby Foote first edition of Jordan County, a narrative of the Deep South. This is an early form of the advanced of the review copy, and this was a book. Here, this is the actual piece. You know, jacket is just immaculate. Book, near fine condition. Original price of $3.50 is present at the front of the top, at the top of the front flap. But inside, we're looking for, you know, the all-important little review slip. This slip gave details about the price of the book that was going to be issued. It gave details about the publication date. Sometimes it gave print numbers. Sometimes they were mailed with a publicity photo of the author. You know, to find a review copy of a book like this, especially, you know, being from the South, you know, Shelby Foote, this is a key piece. One of the things I really love about review copies is that, and advanced proofs for that matter, but really with review copies, you're attracting, being in the business or just being a collector, you know, whatever it is you're doing, whatever your purpose is, you have a book with a review or an advanced copy that even if you have a duplicate of that book, even if you have a first edition, first printing, that's okay. This is totally unique. This is a different piece. This book is going to appeal to not only first edition collectors, it's going to appeal to, you know, collectors of Southern literature, it's going to appeal to review copy collectors, and even if they have the same book in a first edition format, they're going to want that one too, because it's a review copy. Let's see, do we cover everything in a review? Sometimes stamped as such. Sometimes in a review copy you'll see a publisher stamp, an ink stamp that says, you know, Random House courtesy of, you know, just various rubber stamps or the like. We're going to talk just a minute about Great Gatsby. This is one of those slides that was added to this updated PowerPoint, because we really wanted to talk about a few books in particular. The first couple of classes that we gave, we really just touched on the basics. We didn't go into any one book in particular. This is one of the reasons why we waited to film, is because we wanted to get more on the camera. We wanted to, you know, it may seem a little scattered, but you've got a lot of information right here that we're going over, and we've done that purposely. The Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald, 1925, Scribner's, the first edition, first printing, a storied book, you know, a book that is a titan in book lore. It is an amazing piece. It's one of my personal favorites. I do not have a first edition, first printing copy in the original jacket. I wish that I did. You know, a book of that stature would be a tremendous amount of money. And after we go over the issue points, I truly do wish you all the best in finding one. And if you find one, please call me. We'll both make a bunch of money. I'm gonna snag a copy of The Great Gatsby. This happens to be a copy of the book printed and published by the First Edition Library. They are a company that has set out to create exact facsimiles of first edition, first printing books. This is what the original looked like. They want every detail, the First Edition Library, they want every detail and every error that was issued with the first printing of the book. They mimic it right here. And quite frankly, these have become very collectible in their own right. And they're just cool. Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald, first edition, first printing. The first thing we're looking for is we're going to look on the copyright page. This one has the little first edition library disclaimer. So what we are looking for is on the original, we're looking for copyright 1925 by Charles Scribner Sons, printed United States of America, and then down at the bottom we're looking for that all-important Scribner seal. This block here, which is something, this is attributed to the first edition library copy. Ignore that. This is actually one of the few pieces in this production that does vary, but they have to do that for rights issues. The copyright date is going to be the 1925, and no additional printings or dates mentioned at all. Key. The second thing we're looking for, page 205. I believe that we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 lines in, right here. Sick and tired was replaced by sick and tired. I'm holding up the same page, but we've got a better scan of it here on the screen. We're getting sick and tired. There are 4 issue points in the Great Gatsby first edition. This one is the most important. This is the one we're going to talk about today. You know, the others, as a general rule, fall in succession. If this one is here, that's what we're looking for. The dust jacket. The dust jacket, we've got the next slide. We're going to talk about the price on the inside of the dust jacket. The Great Gatsby, on the back of the jacket, on the first edition, first printing copy, the J in J Gatsby, a proper name, supposed to be capitalized, is double stamped. It was originally printed as a lowercase letter. You can see it here. It's the 3rd paragraph down. You know, right here if you're looking at the back of the jacket. But close up, you can see that double strike where the small lowercase j still pokes out right there. They stamped over it, but it's there. That's what we're looking for. If you find that, you have found a tremendous piece of history. The inside jacket flap, the last piece I believe we're going to talk about with Gatsby. The original issue price of $2 is intact at the top of the inside front flap. Grapes of Wrath, John Steinbeck. We're going to talk just a minute, and we're going to use the same kind of book when we're talking about the Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. We're going to use the first edition library copy. One of the things I love about the first edition library copies is we can use them in the shop, we can handle them, we can show them, share them, and we don't fear mishandling. We're not passing around a $3,000 to $4,000 first edition copy of the book. We're passing around, in essence, a teaching tool. The Grapes of Wrath, first edition, first printing. The copyright date, you must say April 1939. Once again, we've got the first edition library disclaimer here, but no additional years, dates, printing notations at all. First published in April 1939 on that bottom line. That's what we're looking for. The Grapes of Wrath is an easier one, folks, than the Gatsby. The second thing we're looking for, the Battle Hymn of the Republic in papers. This was removed from later edition copies. Must have the Battle Hymn of the Republic on the front and rear end paper. And it's present on both. The last slide, we're going to talk about the jacket. The most interesting part of the Grapes of Wrath. The jacket, let's go up to the PowerPoint, Greg. The jacket must have the original issue price of $2.75. But here's an interesting piece. Must have the first edition slug at the bottom of that front flap. A lot of times books will be price clipped, very common. This happened because people give books away as gifts or the like, and they don't want the price on there. It does damage the value of the book. You know, that's a question that's asked very frequently. The first edition slug on the bottom of the jacket must be present, and it is all important. And quite frankly, it's rare to find this sort of issue point. which makes this one of the more interesting books that we talk about here in the shop. And you know, at the end of this PowerPoint, we may actually pan around. We actually own two genuine first edition copies of The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, both of which retain the first edition slug and the price. I guess we're going to do it right now. John Grisham, A Time to Kill. Everybody in the book business is somewhat familiar with John Grisham's A Time to Kill. You know, it's one of those books that, once again, is a part of modern book lore. It was Grisham's, you know, Grisham's big one, his first. You know, but one of the things with A Time to Kill that is very interesting is that it wasn't that big of a book when it was originally published. John had a smaller publisher, Winwood Press. They did not print many copies of this book. I believe it was 5,000 copies of the original first edition, first printing. The Winwood Press also issued a book club edition and a paperback. This was in 1989. The copy that we have here on display at the shop and that we're going to use, you know, in our talk here, is the Doubleday edition, which came out in 1993, November of 1993. And if we want to pan in, Doubleday actually does use that number line, and you can clearly see the 1 at the front of that number line. I don't know if we can get tight on that, but there you go. This is what we're going to. The purpose of this slide is to discuss the first edition versus the first edition thus. A first thus edition of a book is, as a general rule, a first printing of a book by a new publisher. Someone else is printing it, someone new, some new company. We can have first edition thus copies of books by, you know, Charles Dickens or Twain. New publisher, it's the first time that somebody new printed it. So what we have here is what we call the true first edition, the Winwood Press A Time to Kill, and the first thus edition, the Doubleday 1993 first edition of A Time to Kill. This book in particular has a great story to go along with it. We're going to touch on just a few little pieces. It wasn't that big of a book when it was originally published by Winwood Press. It never got John Grisham the acclaim that, you know, that it should have, obviously, and it has since. But it took the firm for this book to really come into its own light. After the firm was published, and after it became the blockbuster that it was and still is, A Time to Kill was reprinted by Doubleday. And became a blockbuster in its own right. A great success story for John Grisham, and a great story for any book collector or book dealer. Issue points: first edition, first printing versus the first UK edition. And this can actually go both ways. First edition, first printing being done in the UK, and then the first US edition. Vice versa. What we're talking about here is, you know, the first time a book is published, where is it published first? You know, if an author is in you know, England, let's use an example of Nick Hornby. As a general rule, Nick Hornby's books are published first in England, and then they're published here in the United States. Well, where it was done first is the true first edition. Whenever they're printed in America, they're known as the first American edition. Always a great distinction to keep in mind as far as collecting goes. It's one of those things that it's another one of those genres that people collect. If you're collecting one of every Ernest Hemingway first edition, and you complete and you fill out that set, you may want to move on to the first UK edition of every Ernest Hemingway first edition. Just something to keep in mind. A lot of times nowadays, by the way, I see UK editions. I was actually at a Barnes & Noble last week, and I purchased 2 copies of Nick Hornby's new book, and they were first UK editions on the sale table at the Barnes & Noble. Interesting? I don't know. You know, it happens out there. I mean, it's a global world, so it's becoming easier and easier to access US first editions, UK first editions, and the like. Seeking, locating, and acquiring. Obviously the most fun part of what we do here. Garage sales, we hunt. Where do we hunt for books? Garage sales, library sales, book fairs, antique malls, flea markets, Goodwills, auctions, estate sales, rare book dealers. When it comes to rare books, you know, the real first edition powerhouse pieces, you're going to need to realistically buy from 3 different areas: the auction, the rare book dealer, or the book fair. You never know when you're going to find that hidden treasure out there in the world, but you can't rely on finding every Ernest Hemingway first edition at a Goodwill or a flea market. I just can't believe that that's going to happen in a lifetime. So keep that in mind. You can always find good deals out there, but reverting back to an earlier slide, don't overdo it just because the price is right. But if you happen upon the things that you're specializing in, obviously, there you go. Organizing and cataloging your collection. This would be a database that can be accessed on your computer to keep up with what you have. You know, lots of systems have come and gone: Book Tracker, Bookhound, Homebase, Optima. One of the things that's always worked the best for us is a custom Excel spreadsheet. It's clean, it's easy, it's dependable, it's been around, and quite frankly, it's compatible to almost everything out there. We sell on 14 different websites, and all of them, I'm correct about this, all of them we use our Excel spreadsheet to upload. By the way, that's not to say that you have to use an Excel spreadsheet because you're selling. Excel spreadsheets are also just a tremendous way to categorize your books for collecting. You may have no desire whatsoever to become a bookseller. Although I tend to think that most booksellers are book collectors that just extend it. It's a way for us all to keep funding the habit. Displaying in proper storage. Storage of books: weatherproof, insect and animal proof, secure and stable, the correct temperature, the correct humidity. What is the correct temperature? General rule, we suggest temperature between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll find you know, different you know, care books about rare books. For the most part, you're all going to be about 60 to 70% degrees Fahrenheit. Books like the cool weather, Tennessee where we are, Franklin, Tennessee where we are, Leaper's Fork, the closest large town, Franklin. You know, not the best area of the country for collecting and selling rare books, but not the worst either, by no stretch whatsoever. What's the correct humidity level? As a general, we suggest between 50 and 60% relative humidity. You know, that's pretty damp. We have a humidification pack set up here to our air conditioner unit in our shop. It's an economical way to get that humidification going on in your home, your library, your business, your office. When the air unit pops on, that humidifier starts working. Displaying in proper storage. Never ever do this. Never press flowers in a book, folks. Flowers destroy pages. They discolor pages. You know, the chemical reaction that happens between nature and paper is not good. Never add scraps of paper to a book. Another major culprit in the war on stained pages. Scraps of newspaper clippings. You will just walk into a flea market or a used bookshop, and I promise you, if you pick up enough books, you're going to see little scraps of newspaper, photographs, you know, articles clipped out, 1932, you know, tire sale at the local BF Goodrich. There's always going to be some kind of little something in there. And the acid in the paper, the way it reacts over the course of years, you're going to discolor pages. Never turn down corners of a book page to mark your spot. I've known many authors over the years, and I've heard a few of them say, show some respect to the author. That's not really the reason why, and they say that in jest, I'm sure, but they're just probably happy you're reading their book. But turning the pages on a book damages the pages. It causes damage to the book. Never write or underline in any fashion on a book that you hope to keep in your collection of fine, rare books. Never eat, drink, or smoke around a rare book. Investment and financial gain. From 1938 to 1941, the R.R. Bowker Company assembled the trade prices current of American First editions. We're just going to go over just a very few, and there are some great resources that we're happy to share with you folks about what has happened over the years. We can pull up auction records and see how they've changed, from 1900 to today. Some of the information you find is absolutely staggering. Some of it's not, but some of it is absolutely staggering how prices have increased. A few examples, and this is very light, but James Fenimore Cooper, the first precaution, was noted as being valued at $210 in that time frame. Today, $4,000. John Steinbeck, the first edition of Cup of Gold, which was a newbie, $30. Today, $7,500. A first edition of In Our Time by Ernest Hemingway, $75. Now, upwards of $20,000, maybe more. Are there better ways to invest? Yeah, probably. But are you going to do that? Book collecting is investing that can be done just by naturally changing some of the habits that you have whenever you're buying. I'm sure there are better things to invest in. Book collecting has worked very well for me, and I don't know that I would have been parking cash at the ripe old age, 15 years ago at the ripe old age of 22, 23. Would I have been parking cash in a mutual fund or, some sort of stock portfolio? No, but I was buying rare books, and I was hunting for first editions at Borders while I'm looking for books to read. So that's how it starts. We're not, we're never going to be the people that says, our main goal is to just get you to change the way maybe you think about how you buy things. I think, and that's a tremendous way to increase the likelihood that you're going to have a great collection of books. That's it. We would open up to questions, obviously, if any of you were here in-house. I guess we're going to have to settle for taking questions via email or phone, however it is you wish to communicate with us. Please join us on Facebook. Join the battle for the book. We really believe in our hearts that the way that our society and the world is taking the knowledge in. The way we're taking knowledge in is changing, just like the music industry before us. What does that mean for the book world? I actually don't think it means very much for the rare book industry. I think that rare books have been collected for centuries. They will continue to be collected. I believe they will become more collectible. As something goes away, it becomes more and more of a nostalgic piece of history. It becomes more and more of an antique. Join us in that. Please, once again, feel free to share all comments. Happy you tuned in. I'm very thankful for each and every one of you, whether it's 2 or 2,000. Thanks so much, and we look forward to seeing you here in Leapers Fork.